And now we are going to share the screen with the sound. And here we go. There we go. Uh-oh, let's see. There we go.
This morning, I want to talk to you about prayer, about praying according to the will of God. You see, according to the will of God. It is not the will of God that I pray that you run off a cliff. He's not going to help me with that because you are God's child, just like I am, and he don't think no more of me than he thinks of you. You see, what I'm probably doing is making arrangements for me to run off a cliff. Huh? For this is good and acceptable in the sight of God our Savior, who will have all men to be saved and to come unto the knowledge of this truth. For there is one God and one mediator between God and men, and the man Christ Jesus. This is Timothy 2, 3, 4, just second chapter, 3rd, 4th, and 5th verse. This is Ephesians 6 and 6. Not with eye service as men pleasers, but as the servants of Christ, doing the will of God from the heart. Huh? Oh, it got quiet. Didn't it get quiet? Well, I've been praying. Well, we're going to look into that this morning. I don't say you haven't been praying, but evidently you haven't been praying. If it hasn't been answered to your benefit, you haven't been praying according to the will of God. With goodwill, doing service to the Lord and not to men, knowing that whatsoever good thing any man does, the same he shall receive of the Lord. You must didn't hear it. Knowing that whatsoever good things any man does, any woman also, the same shall he or she receive of the Lord. Huh? I tell you all the time, I'm selfish. I do all this for you because I require a lot of stuff being done for me. You're laughing, I'm so serious. It's God's will. You see, you can dictate your life. You can control your life. You can receive in your life whatever you want that's for your highest good. Luke, the 12th chapter, 22nd, then the 31st and 32nd verse. And he said to his disciples, Jesus talking, therefore I say unto you, take no thought for your life, what ye shall eat, neither for your body what you shall put on. In other words, don't worry about it. Huh? Worry is not God's will for you. You decide to do that. All Jesus ever talked about was peace of mind, joy, happiness. I never hear him. I've read it over and over, this book, this Bible. I see no place God or Jesus or any of the disciples or any of the prophets said worry. It ain't in there. It ain't in there. Did you ever see it? Did you ever see it? It's not it because it's not in there. That's why you didn't see it. Worry is not what God, you decide to do that. Life is more than meat and the body is more than raiment. Huh? Consider the ravens, for they neither sow nor reap, which neither have storehouses or barns, and God feeds them. How much more are you better than the fowl? And which of you, this is the part I like, and which of you with taking thought can add to his stature 1 cubit? If he could, don't you think Kobe would be 9'7"? Don't you think he's out there every day? Huh? It's the truth. It's the truth. It's the truth. If then be not able to do that thing which is least, why take ye thought for the rest? Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. And when you pray, thou shalt not be as the hypocrites are, for they love to pray standing on the corners of the streets, that they may be seen of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. They got the praise of the people standing around looking at them. That's it. Not sufficient for me. If that's enough for you, then you do what you have to do. Not enough for me. I need more than that. I need much more than your praise. I've had praise up and down the yin yang. So I know praise and enough money will get you what you have to buy. You see, praise of God is the only praise that comes back with a benefit for you. All the rest of this praise is some folk ain't got much to say and want to talk. Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. But when you pray, enter into the closet, and when you shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret, and thy Father which sees in secret shall reward you openly. So it's all about prayer this morning, the kinds of prayer, but more important, the how-to directions given in the contract in the Bible. In John 14:14, it says, if ye shall ask anything in my name, I will do it. In John 15:7, it says, if ye abide in me and my words abide in you, you shall ask what you will, and it shall be done unto you. Herein is my Father glorified, that you bear much fruit. So shall ye be my disciples. Herein is my Father glorified. If you ain't doing nothing, you're not glorifying God. If you're not getting the ends to meet and lap over and curl under, you're not glorifying God. If you're not trying to give all you can every day, you are not glorifying God, and you are not praying according to God. See, prayer is more than some words. Prayer and love is more than some words. It's a feeling. And love is not something you just say. Love is something you do. You see, get out of my face telling me you love me and you can't scratch my back. I don't want to know. John 5:11 says, these things I have spoken unto you, that my joy might remain in you, and that your joy might be full. So here's Jesus on the way to the cross, worrying about you, Miss Holiday, having joy, and your joy, not just having some, but that your joy be full. You weren't even here yet. You weren't even here yet. You weren't here yet. I wasn't here yet. And back there then, he was concerned that our joy is full. I'm telling you to do all these things. And the reason I'm telling you to do all these things is so that your joy will be full, not just a little bit. You're not properly impressed. John 16:24. Hitherto you have asked nothing in my name. Ask, and you shall receive, that your joy may be full. That your joy may be full. That your, These scriptures are Jesus telling us how and why we should ask or pray or communicate with God, so that our joy may be full. Now, there's a lot of kind of prayers, and next week I'll take you through those. But I want to talk to you this morning about silent prayer. Silent prayer is more effective than audible prayer. The reason being, through silent prayer, the mind comes into a closer touch with the creative spirit. You're not running your mouth. The creative spirit is God. And when you're praying silently, you're releasing the Christ that's inside of you. And that Christ inside of you begins to work. So you don't have to say anything because he's already told you before you open your mouth, he's answering you. So it's not required that you, and they've led us, all of us, astray. Some people don't pray because they don't think they know the right words. You see, some people don't know what Rose of Sharon is. And it's wonderful, but it won't heal you. Bright and morning star, wonderful, won't save you. You see, you need to get inside and let the Christ that's inside of you commune with the infinite spirit of God that's all around you, and bring from that infinite spirit to you what it is you're asking for. But you get to talking and see, you're so rude. Now, Father, I need the rent paid, and I need the car note paid, and I need that monkey off my back that's at work, and I don't want no more trouble, amen. I wouldn't answer you if you talked to me like that. And I ain't even God by myself. You don't have time to listen. You don't spend any time with God. When you love somebody, Franklin can't get rid of me. Sometimes I have to say to myself, let the man breathe, Dell. Let him have one breath, Dell, please, Dell. Go back upstairs, Dell. Let the man have a minute at his death, Dell. I don't want to be upstairs and he downstairs. If he downstairs, ain't nothing I can do in Franklin's office. Understand me? He has everything the way he wants to do it. He does it all himself. So I have a chair that sits across the desk, and I can just sit there and look at him. And every once in a while, he looks up, and I can ask a question. You hungry? No, I'm not hungry. Would you like a cup of coffee? Do you need anything? Then, did you know I loved you? Uh-huh, I knew. Well, I do. I just want you to know I love you. I knew. Honey, please, I'm just trying to, let me finish this right here on this computer, and I'll be with you. Then I recognize, now this man trying to work to make you a living. Get up out of this chair, and all of this house you got, go find another part of it to be in. When you're in silent prayer, you have spiritual power, because all of the power in silent prayer is the Christ inside you and the infinite spirit of God all around you and through you. You see, prayer is action of your mind accelerated. See, when you pray, when you silently sit there and spend time with God, ideas start coming. Acceleration. Maybe I could do this. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. I can do. That's why when you pray, you should have a pencil and a piece of paper near. Because sometimes it comes so fast. Yeah, I write songs, and people say, how long did it take you to write that? Sometimes it came so fast I couldn't write it all down. It was coming. It was coming. It had to come out. He wanted that said. It had to be, and it was coming. And I'm writing. Now I got to go back and figure what I wrote because I'm writing so fast. Prayer quickens your ability to produce successful results in your life. Prayer brings the nature of God and his goodness into your life, world, and affairs. Prayer is affirmation in its highest form. And affirmation is to make something firm in your mind and recognize that truth and hold on to that truth. And your prayer is affirmation with feeling and faith. You see, when you pray silently, you will begin to feel your body react to the God inside of you. Now, I can't tell you how because it's different for everybody. Some people just can't stop their leg from moving. Some people rock. Some people cry You know, but you will feel God if you could just be still for a minute. Prayer does not consist of supplication and flowery words addressed to the deity in the clouds. God's not in the cloud. So if you're praying to God in the cloud, he will never hear you. He's not up there. Just like there is no blue, God is not up there. Genesis said he worked 6 days, and the seventh day he rested. Well, where did he rest? Inside of his greatest creation. It doesn't require a series of nicely wrought statements projected from unfeeling lips in the direction of the throne of God in the cloud. Deacon Evans, when I was coming up in the Baptist church, Deacon Evans would say, "Here I am again, Lord, calling on your name." Every Sunday morning, see, we had a devotion before the service. They had a devotion, and Deacon Evans prayed at the devotion. And every morning, Sunday morning, he screamed at God like God was deaf, dumb, and crazy. Not required. It's not required you talk to God like that. In fact, it's better if you don't. All those prayers miss the mark. They just do. True prayer is to claim earnestly and feelingly that the uplifting, healing, strengthening power of infinite healing presence is always available to you, in you, making you whole, perfect, and complete. You see, it's in there. It's in there. Faith finds its appropriate natural manifestation in prayer. This is Hebrews 11:6. But without faith, it is impossible to please him, God. For he that comes to the Lord must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. You know, diligent? Not run in for a few minutes. Diligently seek him. Constantly seeking him. Definitely seeking him. Absolutely seeking him. Wanting to be in his presence. Feeling the need to be in his presence. I don't know about you, but some days I come home, I have to get with God right away to save my home life. To save my home life. As soon as I walk in the door, I have to get with God. Because they be done turned me around out there, and I'm never going to drop all that on Franklin. Because he don't treat me that way. You see, and I come in, and I'm ready. Ooh, baby. I don't want to even describe it so I don't have to feel it again. You see, and so I have to come in and go in the bathroom. That's the first available private place. See, when I walk in the door, I say, I'm on a mission. Let me get myself together. Don't let me bring this stuff home. I don't need to bring this in my house. I don't need to have this in my body, in my mind, or my being. Give me peace, give me peace, give me peace. Give me the peace to greet my husband the way I should greet him and hold him and let him feel the love. Let Shirley know that I love her. And I'm not mad at anybody in here. And Father, keep me from being mad at anybody out there. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, Daddy. How you doing? You good? Now, I know in the street they don't bother you, so you don't have to do that. I know everybody in the street treats you wonderfully, so you don't have to do that. But that's what I do. James 5:16. The effectual, fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. The effectual, fervent prayer of a righteous man, woman, availeth much. Right thinking followed by right action is righteousness. So if you will have this effectual, fervent prayer, it will change the way you're thinking, as I tried to describe to you over there. You see, it'll change the way you're thinking, and you'll step into righteousness, as I tried to show you over here. You have to work with it. You have to pray so fervently that it affects you. You see, you have to pray for in you, through you, to you. In you, through you, to you. You have to pray in you because God is in there. Through you from all the stuff you're going through that you want to get rid of, to you, that it's all going to be all right. Okay, I'll move on. There are the prayers of form and ritual and the prayers of faith and love. Millions of people all over the world pray because it's a duty, part of the religious life and that you're trying to express. Might as well go on to bed. She made me get down there every night, my mother, and pray. And what I was doing was repeating the words she was saying. They meant nothing to me. But in order to have the Pepsi-Cola bottle full of milk and cookies, I had to say my prayers. And so, amen. I don't know what you're laughing about. You pray the same way now. Don't be laughing like I'm the only one, because I ain't the only one. You see, you can't pray from a sense of duty. It's not a task that's being imposed upon you. The prayer of faith and love are not a task or a duty, but a spiritual necessity. You're praying so that you can communicate with God. That's a spiritual necessity. In order to grow and expand and express your health, your happiness, your abundance, and your peace, with the help of the Christ inside of you, you get it to take charge of your life and run your life effectively. See, the prayer is the path of power. Prayer is the practice of inner renewal and refreshment. I defy you to have any kind of a problem and take time for a spiritual prayer and get up and say that the problem still matters to you. Try it. Try it. I don't know if anybody has ever failed. Now, you may be the one. At least try it and see. Prayer is the path of power. In prayer, we conduct for ourselves the search for closed doors keeping our good from us. You see, in your subconscious mind is all that junk that you've learned through all the years. And I give this example. You're 3 years old. You're crawling on the floor in the kitchen. Your aunt, who gives you candy all the time, and pats you on the belly and tells you that you're pretty. And your mother, who comes whenever you call and puts you to bed at night and wakes you up in the morning and feeds you all during the day, are talking. And your aunt says, all men are dogs. You don't know men, you don't know dogs. But your aunt, who gives you candy all the time, said, she's an important lady. And she says, all men are dogs. So in here somewhere in your subconscious mind, you slap, all men are dogs. And you crawl over here and your mother said, yeah, honey, that's the truth. So I've never met one that wasn't trying to cheat you. You don't know cheat. But your mama said that. So in your subconscious mind goes cheat. So now you have in here, men are dogs that cheat. So now you're 30 years old, you meet this fox. Woo, baby. And he just can't keep his hands, his eyes, his nothing off of you. And he just thinks you so wonderful. He just loves you so much. And you talking to your girlfriend, you say, I don't know. See, he act like he really liked me, but I don't know, it's something, I don't know what it is, but something just won't let me trust him. Huh? Never been there before. You lie. It's something. He don't, well, what did he do to make you know? Well, Doc, he didn't really do nothing. I just have this feeling that something that's your mama and your aunt when you were 3 years old crawling on the floor, still blocking the love that you want from your life. You see, so you've got to clean that out. It's prayer that opens up the doors and lets that junk flow out. It comes out through your praying, through your saying to the Father, I want to be clean, I want to be pure. Prayer removes the lack of God in mind and in your heart, and it puts in more awareness of God and his perfect will for our lives of good. Don't ask expecting God to hand you the things you want. The sky is never going to unzip, and out of the sky, he's going to hand you what you want. It would be redundant to do that because he has already given you everything you need to get everything you want when you want it, as much of it as you want, to keep as long as you want to. So asking him to give it to you is ridiculous. Then you look, well, it ain't unzipping, and it ain't coming down, and I've been praying, Dale. I've been praying, and ain't nothing coming. You open the door. You pray, and that problem that you're thinking about, suddenly God will start to rationalize with you. Why does he have to do this? You don't have enough money to buy him. A lot of ladies like him. He don't have to settle for you. He's not deformed or nothing. And all the stupid stuff will come up and it'll be so clear before you. Nobody in here knows what I'm talking about. It'll be so clear, it's like a movie in front of you. And it'll give you the chance to say, now that's stupid. I'm not thinking that no more. Get out of my mind. So that the next time you see him, you're able to look at him from a different point of view because your mama and your aunt are gone. Realize and see with your spiritual eyes, that God has already made provisions in the very nature of things for every need that you have to be fulfilled. Realizing this, go about your work in perfect confidence that the law of support and supply will be fulfilled and that you will demonstrate. Christ Jesus promised that you would. Prayer is the language of spirituality and improves the quality of your being. Prayer makes you master in the realm of creative ideas. There are some things you must do for effective prayer. I'm going to give you a list of them. And if you would like to have a list of them, Beverly, is she teaching? This is Beverly. Come here, Beverly. If you would like to have a list of these things, this is Beverly. And you will give her your name after the service. And I will give her these things, and she will print them up for you. And next Sunday, when you come, she will have them for you. But she will only have those for the people whose names she has. So don't mess with Debbie. You understand what I'm saying to you? If your name is not on the list, Debbie don't have nothing for you. And I'm trying to be nice to you. I'm advising you. Don't, don't do nothing silly. Thank you, darling. You must, I know and feel that harmony, beauty, and the life of God manifests itself in me as peace. I know, I feel the harmony, the beauty, and the life of God manifests itself in me as peace, as vitality, as wholeness, as perfection. I don't think that. I don't hope that. I know that. I know. I know it so well that I feel it. When I talk about it, I feel it. I feel that the harmony and the beauty and the life of God manifests itself in me in peace and vitality and wholeness and perfection. You see, when I get a clear realization of this, really clear, whatever the condition that I'm in, it will dissolve. In the light of God's love, it will dissolve. I don't think this. I don't hope this. I don't wish this. I know this. I know that whatever I'm going through, if I get close enough to God, no idiot, fool, dum-dum wants to be in a fight with God. And if I get close enough to God, whatever it is going to back on up, dissolve, and get out of the way in the light of God's love. I have to make sure that my mental picture agrees with my affirmation. You see, if I'm affirming for a new car, a new coat, I affirm for a full-length sable coat. See, now I couldn't say, I live in California, you never really need a fur coat in California. Because that doesn't match my picture. My picture is, I want a full-length sable coat. I'm going to look funny in the sun shining all day long in my coat. Everybody else got on a bikini. That's not a part of my picture. I had to understand, you don't buy this $100,000 coat because you're cold. You can get you a good cashmere coat, keep you so warm you won't believe it. But for $100,000, you buy it because it's wonderful and you like to be involved in it. That's how come. Ain't got nothing to do with being warm. So you got to make sure your mental picture agrees with your affirmation. And in your mind's eye, you have to see yourself radiant, happy, with power, dominion, and mastery, and God's authority to use your prayer power. Nobody can give you that. I can't teach you that. No teacher here can teach you that. You have to do that for you. You have to see you, not the way you've been seeing you as po me. You have to see you as radiant, happy, with power, dominion, mastery, and God's authority to use that energy. True prayer is claiming that what is true of God is true of God, even in this seeming mess, even in this confusion, even in the way that they're treating me so ridiculously. I don't need to bother with anything but getting in here and getting to the God inside of me. And I used to get so upset people say things. I don't care what you say. Well, I have never seen any of your names on the check that pays my house note. Huh? When I went to get that Lincoln out there, nobody came and said, here's a couple files. Huh? You didn't do it, baby. No. The whole $35,000 came out of my pocket. So I don't care what you say. Say whatever you want to say. I don't have to listen to what you say because I have the ability to do this. You stand in a mud puddle longer than you have to stand there. You know when somebody's about to go off. You can make an exit. You know, this fool's about to go off. Look, I got to run. I'm going to talk to you later. James 5:15. The prayer of faith shall save the sick, and the Lord shall raise him up. If he has committed sins, they shall be forgiven. But verily God hath heard me, he hath attended to the voice of my prayer. Blessed be God, which has not turned away my prayer, nor his mercy from me. The Psalms. David, I love David. David was so wonderful. David found God very early. And David knew the real saving power was God. Not his fighting ability. He was a very good general. Not any of that, but the power of God. And David would get in the fight with the biggest army in the universe at the time. And the army would be crushing David and all of his. David said, fight right here for a minute. Lord, you my shepherd, I shall not want. This is the 66th Psalm, the 18th and the 20th verse. Verily I say unto you that he that believes on me, the works that I shall do, he do also, and greater works than these shall he do, because I go to my Father. That was said by Jesus, that's not from the Psalms. I have the wrong thing there. And whatsoever ye shall ask in my name, that I will do, that the Father may be glorified in the Son. If you shall ask anything in my name, I will do it. John 5:14 and 15. And this, I love this, this is the confidence that we have in him, that if we ask anything according to his will, he hears us. And if we know that he hears us, whatsoever we ask, we know that we have the petition that we desire of him. Do you have that confidence? You say, yeah. I'm going to give you another chance. And this is the confidence that we have in him, that if we ask anything according to his will, he hears us. And if we know that he hears us, whatsoever we ask, we know that we have the petitions that we desire of him. We know that Christ is going to God, putting in the petition for us. We have confidence. I know he will. I know he'll do that for me. I know he loves me that much. I know he wants me to succeed. I know he wants me to be comfortable. I know he wants me to be warm and loving and tender and giving. 1 John 5:20. And we know that the Son of God is come and has given us an understanding, that we may know him that is true. And we are in him that is true, even his Son, Jesus Christ. This is the true God and eternal life. We have everything we need to do everything that we need to do. Whatever you want, no matter what it is, you have time to do it. You have the power to do it. You have all the things that you need to do it. You have the erasers that you need for your subconscious mind to clean it out so that you can have the things that you want. In your bulletin this morning, there is a prayer. I ask that we all take this prayer together now, and that we take it every day this week until we come together again. It's on a single sheet like this. Do you see it? All right. Together. Because I know you love me, Father, and because I know you have blessed me in ways I know of, and in ways I have yet to have the pleasure of knowing, I come to give you praise and my thanks for taking care of my needs and desires. Then just be quiet. Say this, then just be quiet. Give yourself the time to be quiet. Give yourself the time to understand that God is wonderful. And he wants so much to do the things for you that will let you know that he is wonderful and that he loves you. This is my testimony. I was laying in a hospital corridor in London, Ontario, and they were about to operate on my brain. I had an aneurysm to rupture, and it had been ruptured for 2 weeks, and nobody had done anything. And finally, they sent me to London, Ontario, because it was a 5-hour flight, and the only other man that could handle it was in Sweden or Switzerland, 14 hours away. And they put me on this gurney, and they started to roll me into this room. Franklin was there, my baby Dumpsy was there, my son James was there. And they were looking in the window smiling, but they couldn't go any further. It was sterile in there. But God went in with me. That was in 1979. They said I would have been dead before I hit the floor. When I didn't die, they said I'd be blind, crippled, or crazy. I see you as good as you see me. I'm not crippled, and I'm no crazier than I was when they took me in there. God
You're muted, Wally.
There we go. I unmuted myself. Okay, so I would have loved to have played the song too, but Facebook tends to sometimes not be so friendly to music. So it is there, though. I invite you to go to Upchurch LA, as in Los Angeles, on YouTube. And that video was posted on July 28th of 2022. So you can hear the song there and the rest of their service, and always check out all their services. You can check out UIG. And Todd, what time's your service? I forget. I should know since I spoke. 10:30?
10:30 Sunday mornings.
Yeah, so
Eastern
you can
time.
check us all out. We're all slightly, ajarred from each other. Todd and I crossed paths for 30 minutes, but anyway.
But it's much earlier
okay,
in the morning for y'all out on the West Coast.
Yeah, but for West Coast people, you can watch us and then still check in for Upchurch too, and go in person if you're in Los Angeles to the new space. So anyway, let's do a quick introduction for anyone who maybe doesn't know one of us or some of us or something like that. I attempted to stream this to the church page where I'm the minister, but I ended up sharing it there. I think this is on my personal page, and we're sharing from there. But I'm Reverend Wally White, the senior minister at Unity in Greensboro, and I learned all of what I teach from that divine woman who we just heard give a lesson. And I got those lessons live for 15 years in person, and then stayed in touch with her on the phone for another 2 years after that when I came back to North Carolina. So Sherry, how about you introduce yourself?
Sure. So I'm Sherry James, and I am the senior minister for Understanding Principles. And what's exciting is that we were all around Reverend Della's Wednesday night table. Well, Todd, you're honorary, and you'll be an honorary Wednesday night person. But we were around Reverend Della's table, and as of this year, you guys are now talking to the Reverend Wally White and the Reverend John Downey III. And that's just delightful to me. But I get the privilege of continuing the ministry that she started in 1986. We are in Inglewood, California. We meet every Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m. The music is still fire. The message is still on point. And we are still carrying on in that tradition that I don't know what you call it. Like, it's New Thought, but it's also got a little bit of like Pentecostal to it and a whole lot of other stuff to it. So yeah, come join us, 8722 Crenshaw Boulevard, and we are in the fellowship hall.
All right. And John, the newest minister at Up Church in Los Angeles, but I think you're coming in from Maryland right now, huh?
I'm actually in Virginia, so I have dubbed myself the traveling minister. Della, she got cast on Touched by an Angel when she was 63 years old, and twice a week was flying between Salt Lake and Los Angeles, and never missed a service. So I have taken up the banister of that. I jump on a plane and fly to LA and give a monthly message so far. That's been fun. And last week they nabbed me and I dialed in at Unity of Pensacola. So I turned the volume down a little bit last week. I wasn't as Della Pentecostal, so I didn't want to get thrown out before I even started.
Yeah, she so didn't miss a service at the week of 9/11. She was in Salt Lake when that happened. And that Sunday, when planes were not really flying so much, she was in Los Angeles doing church that Sunday. So,
yep.
And then I remember her saying the night before she'd been at a dinner in Salt Lake with the mayor of Salt Lake, and then got on a plane and was there for Sunday morning. So, and I wanted to get some voices of people who didn't sit at the table with Reverend D, and because the principles are solid anyway, and they're certainly now getting to people that didn't have a chance to sit at her table or to be live in her church service. And so I asked my good friend Reverend Todd Humphrey, another Unity minister, if he would join us. So Todd, if you'll introduce yourself.
Absolutely. I am Todd Humphrey. I currently serve as the minister at Crystal Coast Unity, which is in Atlantic Beach, North Carolina. I have more than one ordination. My first ordination was as an interfaith minister from One Spirit Interfaith. And then following that, I got ordained through the field ministry program through Unity Worldwide Ministries. In between those ordinations, I was a staff member at the United Palace of Spiritual Arts, which is the church that evolved from Reverend Ike's church. And so hearing a Pentecostal style New Thought message is very comforting to me, and actually love that, and really enjoyed. This is the first message that I've heard from Reverend Della, and am in love, and I can't wait to go and dig up some of her old messages and see some of yours. And I'm really excited to meet both of you. And if you ever come here to speak at Crystal Coast Unity, you are welcome to bring out the Pentecostal. Because they hear that from me. I tell them all the time they have to talk back. So I'm delighted to be with all of you today.
Right. This is a conversation.
Right.
Exactly.
I say that I'm going to start I haven't done it yet, but that I'm going to start using one of Della's old lines in church. If she said something that she was expecting a good reaction to and she didn't get it, she'd tap on that microphone and say, "Is this thing on?"
Or
you're
not properly impressed.
Yeah, she's used that one today.
I stole that at an event, Wally. I rolled out on stage and it was not a church event, and I just started banging the microphone and the audience went crazy. There are just so many things that we can borrow from her example, that are fun to play with.
The one I probably use the most is saying, "Well, that's just BS. Belief system. I don't know what you were thinking, But anyway, So let's talk about this lesson on prayer and kind of what jumped out, what spoke to you, whether it be the first time you've heard it or the 10th, and like kind of what jumped out today for you in that. Has anybody got something you want to say first?
Well, I love what she talked about. I mean, first of all, there were many things to highlight. So that I'm landing on this one random one is, but it was talking about coming in from the world and then reordering herself spiritually, grounding herself spiritually so that she can be available for Franklin in a way that's loving and giving and generous and kind. And I guess I feel that so deeply because just my work world has been so interesting over these last several, I don't know, year for sure, that it just reminds me to ground yourself, to just because somebody handed it to you, do not mean that you need to turn around and hand it off to somebody else. That you can use your spiritual power as an alchemist to transform that energy, negative or otherwise, to transform it so that now you can be available and be loving and kind with the people who really matter in your life.
Absolutely. I took down some notes on that one too. Todd or John, you got something that jumped out?
Well, I took notes before because when you said, "Oh, we're going to look at this," and all the new notes it was her very first line was, "You can dictate your life." Yeah. And I think that we all learned that, like literally, you can call it forward right now, right. This second. And what was so fascinating about her is we got to see firsthand the demonstration. So jumping on what Reverend Sherry said, I think what hooked me into the church 27 years ago when I walked in the door in January was this idea of this modern day parable, that she came from the set of Touched by an Angel, which was very chaotic. I understood that. I worked in television. And she was taking biblical principle to rework everything. So, and demonstrate in her life. I mean, at the end of season 1 of the show, everybody was making plans because the show was going to be canceled. And she's like, no. I talked to God. It's going to be on for 10 years. This fall, the show will have been on for 30.
Yeah.
Incredible stories. One thing I wrote down pages and pages of notes, and this just keeps ringing in my mind, that prayer is the search for closed doors, keeping our good from us. And I mean that just is such an incredible visualization of how that we keep ourselves locked away from receiving our good because of all these stories that we hold on to, this BS, these belief systems that were those very things that as Sherry said, where we have to transform them. They get handed to us, and as children we think that they're treasures and we hold on to them and we allow them to shape how we experience the world. And in doing so, we limit ourselves. We limit the good we can receive. We limit the beauty, the excitement, the joy, the love that we can see and experience and be in the world. Because we've taken this crazy thought, some throwaway comment that some dear person, someone that we loved so much, that they said, and something crazy comes out of their mouth like, men are dogs and they're going to cheat you. And I was sitting here, and as Della was telling that story, and that she was 30 years old, I'm thinking, I'm still single and I'll be 53 in a month. And yes, sometimes men are dogs. So I've got some shut doors I need to find. I know what I'm doing later tonight.
Yeah. What I love about that is, if you're hearing it for the first time, that lesson about the subconscious and how we file stuff away in it, the subconscious is not the area that you can just automatically get to, but that's when so some people can feel it's like, oh, well, I'm just trapped by that. And you're not trapped by anything. Like, probably one of the biggest lessons I ever learned from Della was we are responsible for our own lives. Now, there are people that like to look at that and think, oh, well, that sounds punishing and blah, blah, blah. They're talking about and thinking about fault. But the truth is, it's like, it can be the best news when you realize that you think that men are dogs, because once you recognize that you think it, then you can do something about it. Then you can start praying and affirming the perfect man is available to me. This is not just about men either. The perfect woman is available to me. The perfect person is available to me that sees the perfection in me and loves the imperfection in me. And you just start doing that part of it, And I loved that exercise. Well, I wrote down that it was an exercise. She didn't use that term about going to walking in the door and going to the bathroom. She did that to make sure she didn't give the negative stuff to the other people in her household. I live alone and may start doing that. Walk in the door. First thing I do is go to the room that is meant to release stuff in my house. And when I finish and get to the affirmation place, I may start flushing the toilet just as the final exercise. I have released this and let it go.
I like that, Wally. I like that as a practice, because I think that sometimes you're right. We do think, well, okay, I don't want to bring it to the people in the house, but don't bring it to the walls. Maya Angelou used to say that the words get in the walls, and so if she heard someone speaking a harsh word in her house, she would put them out, even if it was like a party. And it was like, no, you have to go, because the words inhabit the walls and they leave their residue everywhere. And so I don't want to come in and bring all of the into my living space, and I haven't cleansed myself of it. No. I need to go and take a nice hot bath, wash the day off, and then I'm available to my home.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing about that bathroom, because I was trying to visualize it, it was nowhere near the front door. So she was walking all the way halfway down the hallway to that tiny little room, which was basically in the middle of that house. That's very intentional when you think about it. I mean, she told the story all the time at church, and I was imagining she was going to the bigger one upstairs, but like going into the bathroom to be with God, it was the safe place that she could shut everything out.
She taught the bathroom a lot, because she's like, that's the one place that you can shut the door and be alone in your household,
Mm-hmm.
And truth be told, John, that probably is the bathroom she went to, but there was a closer one. If she went into the pool area from the garage door, she could have gone to the bathroom in the pool area. But
I never got in that pool.
Oh, I never got in the pool either.
I
used the bathroom in the pool area.
I talked about it. I talked about getting. Reverend Della had taught this amazing indoor pool, and it was absolutely gorgeous. And we've done many a class outside that pool, like around there was like another sitting area, because the den let out to the pool area, and so we've done classes there, events, everything. And I never got in the pool. So
that was the original thing for that property. Dear and Touched by an Angel, Della bought that house originally at the top of Bel Air Road in 1969. And it was a much smaller house, as I understand. I never saw the original house. But they tore that house down and built a much larger house. But when they did that, they covered the pool and left the pool. So that pool was there with the original house.
Wow.
And it was an Olympic size pool. She bought the house specifically for Dumpsy to have a pool, but it was inside.
Wow. Wow.
We're sidetracking. We're supposed to be talking about her lesson prayer.
Well, but that is part of the teaching, right? Because she lived these principles that, this is like, she demonstrated prosperity. Like, she demonstrated, she lived it. She walked a faith walk. And that when things got bad, or outwardly looking bad, that she continued to hold to these principles in the way that she understood them. And we're here today because she didn't let go.
And
Right.
she never wavered from it, like the way you say held to the principles. Like she, and this could have been Wednesday's class, said, oh, just call them up on the telephone. And I'm like, what, are you nuts? Your name is Della Reese. You live in Bel Air. You think I'm going to call up Ford and tell them that when God sends me the money, I'm going to send you the money for my car payment, which is overdue? But when I did it, I paid off the car. I mean, it really did work if you really did it.
Yeah. You know, one of her great lessons too that I cut off on that video, she gave the testimony about having had the brain aneurysm, and she had lived already for 2 weeks with them out not correcting it. But the part that I cut off was that song. And I think that the great lesson in that song that really talks about how to pray effectively is that once the family had to, you know, hit the last door they could enter, and she had to keep going without them, that, yeah, there was staff around her, but this was her time to turn within. And she didn't, you know, sometimes somebody might have written an original song, but she took an already existing song, which is You Are So Beautiful, and started singing God Is So Wonderful to Me. And she made sure that as they were putting her out and she was going into this very serious surgery, they were cutting her head open and literally doing brain surgery, that the last thing she thought before they put her out was God is so wonderful to me. And you know, something that people, you know, she had in some of the longer versions of telling that story, she talked about how one of the doctors was coming in the room telling her why she was going to have to die. And that was in 1979, and she lived until 2017. So, you know, and she did that because of that kind of always affirming the truth instead of sitting in the worry and ruminating on the worry or the what if or the I hope they do good. She, you know, she said in there, you can't hope it, you've got to know it.
Well,
And that's the
Sherry
effective.
Sherry says this story very good, so I think she should say it. Talk about getting out of the chair on a Wednesday night, because
Uh-huh.
she tells this story left and right, and you
Yeah,
are so on it.
I do. And I'll tell you why it stays with me, because I have a family member who people have to help out of a chair, who is not the age of Reverend Della, is like at least a decade younger, right? And so it landed with me so deeply that watching her, you know, sit down in this chair, now this is after the fall. And one of the things that I've learned, just because I've been through, you know, my own medical experience, that, you know, different things atrophy when you don't use them. And so when you have broken a bone or a leg or an arm or whatever, that atrophies and that has to be built back up. And so she's gone through this now past the age of like 70, and where she's fallen, broken, you know, I understand, like her collarbone, as well as 2 bones in her leg. And she's sitting there, and she, you know, after you sat for a while and you got to get up, if it like, it's one thing to sit down and get right back up. The muscles are warmed up, right? But it's another thing where you've been sitting there and we've been talking and it's been a few hours from class, and it was one of those things where, you know, she wasn't doing it for show. She wasn't trying to, you know, impress anyone or anything like that, because everybody had really kind of gathered their stuff and had left. And she started trying to get out of the seat and had difficulty getting out of the seat. And again, because I have a family member who they experienced this, I'm contrasting this with what I have seen this family member do. And I watched her talk life into her legs. I watched her just continue to say, come on, Del. Come on, Del, you got in this seat. You can get up. You can get out of this seat. And then, you know, of course, because we have gentlemen in the classroom, they would, you know, come over to try to help her. And she'd say, no, I got in this chair. I can get myself out of this chair. And she would refuse their help. And then she would continue to just talk herself out of the seat. And she did this consistently. And I was close enough to her physically, like where we were in the room, to hear her talking to herself and her words beginning to enliven the knees, the thighs, the hamstrings, the shins, you know, the femur, like all of that, until she's up out of the seat and moving.
I find myself doing that now because my hip will get stiff if I sit, a bit long, and I'll start, and I'm like, come on, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this, and talk straight to the hip, because that's what she would do. She would talk right. She said, "No, you're gonna get up. You're gonna move just fine," and she'd talk herself up. And I'm now 54, almost 55, and I do that quite often. I find myself just talking to myself, "You can do this. Come on, let's get up. Let's get up." So yeah. Hello, Reverend Cherie, who has joined us.
Hello, everyone. Happy Reverend Della Day.
That's it. Well, we are close to wrapping up, but Cherie, do you have some stuff you could share about Reverend Della's lessons on prayer and what you think you really hold on to the most now still from that?
Yeah, so one of the greatest impacts that she had, and this is, I think that the difficult thing sometimes about sharing memories about her is that she was a very crucial part of my adulthood. And so there are lots of things that that they just become who you are, not so much. I remember when she said, but that it changed the way I think. And so I think from a different place because of her impact on me. One of the things I believe I'm most impressed by was the conviction and the intimacy of her relationship with God. And I think that there was a point when I thought that I had to have the same kind of relationship that she had with God. And mind you, she never said that, right? She never ever told you she told you to trust God, but not what that experience had to look like and feel like to you, but that you needed to have that kind of experience. And so it took me some years to move out of her mold and really try to have my own. It's kind of like a parenting thing, right? You mimic your parents until you kind of get your own groove. And so I'm grateful for that pattern to work from, because the total reliance on God is admirable when you are dealing with real life circumstances. You know what I mean? Like as it looked like little things going on in my life were, of course, my biggest circumstances. But as life begins to move and you get some bumps and bruises, to say that I rely totally on God is a completely different level of faith. And so I admire that in her. And so her constant prayer work, the taking the reverence out of prayer, where it wasn't like praying yourself out of a chair. It wasn't like you have to have all of these specific words, all of these I call them very churchy words, to have this relationship, but that it had to be authentic to you. And so one of the things she would model in her sermons is how she talks to God. And you can hear that in how she would speak to her bones and how she would speak to different parts of her body, because that relationship was so close and intimate for her. And she shared that with us, which was so beautiful. But a lot of people, keep their prayer traditions to themselves. They keep their prayer practices to themselves. But she would share that, and that really made a huge impact on me in my relationship with God right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A round robin question I want to ask you all what your thoughts were, because I thought I think everybody has their own special way that they want to pray, right? Or what feels most right to them. But when on this lesson specifically, she was mostly talking about silent prayer. And she said silent prayer is more effective than audible prayer. How do you all feel about that?
I think that it is, I understand the premise she's coming from, because oftentimes when we're praying aloud, we're caught up in the sound of our own voice, the words that we're speaking. You can kind of get caught up in the judgment of it. But again, a silent prayer is a level of intimacy with God. It's a level of trust, because I trust that what I'm saying is being heard by you. There's a whole different thing going on in my heart that would feel deeper, that would feel more true than the words I'm able to convey to you. And I mean, you literally hear people who are listening, my heart can speak more clearly than maybe my words can articulate. And so that silent prayer I see is it like a, you know, you don't have to have the words for it, because your heart is speaking, your heart is communicating that to the creator. That is that in that dynamic conversation. So I get it. I totally get it.
I think pray. I think pray no matter what, and in whatever way you can. I think I'm evolving on this idea of praying amiss, because I believe you're always praying at the level of consciousness where you are. And if the level of consciousness where you are is a begging prayer, I have never found God to not course correct. That if I am sincere in my search, and if I'm sincere in my reach, then the Spirit meets me at my point of limitation to carry me through. That's been my personal experience. I agree with Reverend Cherie. I understand where the idea of silent prayer is more powerful than audible prayer, because it perhaps you get out of your head when you're not listening to the sound of your voice. If you've ever, one of the things that I endeavor to do and never do, or at least I don't do often, is go back and listen to something that I said, or go back and listen to a sermon, or it's like, that's like nails on a chalkboard. I can't, and the thing is, there's no way to get better, in my opinion. There's no way that the best way to get better is to like study yourself. But I'm telling you, like, I want to run and stick my head under a pillow if I see myself on screen. Like even now, as we were watching this video with Reverend Della, and I can hear what she's saying, but really I had to just close my eyes, because really what I kept doing was examining myself and
Right, because you're
like,
sitting in the background.
yeah, nitpicking myself in the background, right? Exactly. So perhaps audible prayer create something like that, where you're hearing the sound of your voice, and depending on your relationship with yourself, maybe it takes you out of the prayer consciousness. And I find that just pray, right? Like the one thing that changes everything is prayer. And so start where you are, and if all you know how to do is beg God, I trust the Spirit, because I used to beg God, right?
Yeah.
But I don't do that today. So I trust the Spirit to meet me exactly where I am, and to like put in information over time that guides me to a higher level of consciousness. That's been my experience.
I'm so loving this conversation, and thanks for a great question, Molly. When you first asked that question, I immediately went to when she was speaking, and Della said that that we are rude to God, and that sometimes I live alone, and I just had 3 11 and under years old children in my house for a whole week. Family came to visit. And so I am acutely aware of sometimes we don't know the tone that we are using. and so maybe part of it is in the silence. We're not going to be rude to God. But the other thing that struck me is that speaking aloud, isn't speaking aloud really like so dependent on an idea of duality that we have to pray to something out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so that praying silently is that place where we have finally expanded in consciousness to that place where we know that we are one. And sometimes I'm there and sometimes I'm not. Right? I mean,
Right.
Because sometimes people hand me stuff that I haven't transmuted yet, and I've got my work to do. But I think that when I can get to that place where in the stillness and in the silence, I can that Christ in me can be connected to that God that is out there, because God is everywhere equally present, that I can unite with that and really be in that energy and in that emotion, right? Because she kept saying it's not just about the words, it's also about the feeling. And I think sometimes too that when I try to speak, I am so limited because I am trying to speak to that which is unlimited, and I have a limited vocabulary and a very definitive dialect that gets in the way of some people understanding me. So
Yeah.
that's what came
I
up
love
for
that.
me. Thanks for the question.
Yeah. John, how about you?
So in pondering it, there's two things that I want to bring to the table. One is that it's in the silence that we actually will end up hearing God. And I know many of us who did the Runyon Canyon roll when we first got to LA, and I would do it 3 times around right after church, that hour
3
and a half
times.
walk. Yeah, but hold on.
Once was enough for
It
me.
took me an hour of silence even showed up, which tells you how much stuff is going on in the subconscious mind. And I had just come from this wonderful church that is teaching me so many things. And then all of a sudden it got quiet. And in that quiet is the first time that I'm going to actually be able to hear. So it's something wonderful if we can get there. The one exercise that she gave us in the Wednesday night class that I still have refused to do was looking in the mirror. Because when you look in the mirror, the first thing you see is your eye. And then beyond that eye, you see the next eye and the next eye and the next eye. And she talked about how she would just burst out crying. And I'm like, I can't get that close to God. I just can't do it because what I'm going to see. But, there's so many interesting techniques that she gave us to play with. And where I live now in LA, I have a little mountain behind my house. And every morning I throw myself out of the bed. It's a non-negotiable. I think that's a Reverend Sherry word. It's a non-negotiable. You get out of bed and I walk to the top of that hill. And using the Reverend Cherie tactic of flashcards was studying for whatever I was studying for. But a conversation started happening with God in this silence that was just there every day. And then I found out something interesting. There were at least 2 other ministers who I knew did it. And one was Reverend Sheila. And I went, ooh. So, there is something to getting to that silence and finding our way wherever we find the way, the mindfulness of sound. Do it get there?
Yeah, I think, I think the one of the lessons I certainly learned from Reverend Della is there is no wrong way to do it, but I think part of the point she was making there, because she had just given the example of her childhood deacon, yelling, and in that particular case, it's like, all right, if that's what you need to do that. But if you're putting on a show, as the biblical verse that she quoted says, then that's your reward, your show, your audience, you're done. If you really want to have effective prayer and change for yourself, you've got to, it's whether you're speaking out loud or speaking in silence, it's got to be coming from within you. I know that during some troubled times when I was trying to work through some stuff when I lived in LA, I would go hiking. And sometimes I just needed to talk it out loud to myself. Yeah, I hiked a lot with Sherry and Jody, but sometimes I'd hit that trail on my own, and I needed to kind of talk it out loud. So I learned to put the headphone in and carry my phone so it looked like I was talking to somebody, and then I just talked to myself all the way up that hill. And often I'd start saying that one affirmation that we said for so many years that still helps me. I'm one with God. I'm one with all people. Used to be all men, but now we say all people. I'm one with all people. I'm one, I'm one with all life. I'm one with the one. And then I'd start talking it more. I'm one with God. I'm one with all people. That means the ones I don't like too. That means the ones that give me trouble right now. I am one with them. And so I'm connecting to, and then I just keep talking it out and then get to the place where I could really be in silence and then truly sit in silence with the truth. But I had to go through a process of releasing the stuff that was troubling me, that was sitting on my mind and sitting on my heart, to get rid of that so I could get into that place of affirming the real truth. But that's and the silence is where the truth lives, right? The still small voice. So well, I think we're going to wrap up soon. I'll do another round robin of asking if there's any closing thoughts that any of you have. And I thank you all for being here, and thank anybody that's watching this, whether you're watching live or watching the recording later. This is our chance to keep spreading the lessons that Reverend Della literally changed lives. I can say that in the literal way because I know she did mine. And I know there's 3 more people on this panel right now who she personally did that for as well. So any closing thoughts from anybody?
Well, I don't know if I guess this is from the perspective of being around her, is that sometimes I wonder, how did I get in ministry? Until I go back and I look in the archives and it was like, oh, you were right there, you were right there, you were, in all these places. And I think I am like that kid that took for granted like what they had. That makes sense. That the privilege of studying with an icon, the privilege of learning from someone who's probably one of the best to ever do it, as far as living and walking and breathing and acting in these, truth principles. And I love that she was so irreverent because it freed me so much. And I feel like there's so much of my life that's lived, constricted, following rules and doing things the right way. And so I feel like there's a lot of freedom that she gave. And I think that through exploring her archives, you get some of what she taught, but it was something about being on the ground with her. It's why we continue this, right? This is representative of the group of people that were around her table, that were touched by her life, that were improved by her life. And I, those are my parting thoughts. I feel like that's like random and all over the place, but that's what's coming up.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I would just say my closing thought, and then thank you so much, Wally, for continuing to keep this going. It's so beautiful, and it's her birthday, and it was such an important day for her. I think I may have picked that. No, I think I came here on the planet with that, but I'm just really grateful. That's mainly what I always feel when I think about her example. And the influence that she's had on my life, which is so tremendous, like just a very profound impact on how I see the world. And so it's just thank you. That's really my closing thought. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for each of you that, when you think about the work that you do, and everybody's working in the vineyard, everybody's got a work that they're doing, and you don't know how you're going to influence or impact someone else. And so clearly, by however she touched each of us, just the 5 of us, right, that changed our lives in a way that is, I know, changing other people's lives because of the work that you're doing in the vineyard. And so I'm just grateful.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And
I want to say thanks for inviting me to participate in this and to learn from a new teacher, and to meet all of you, because one of the things that I have learned, because I didn't get ordained by Unity until a year ago. So and I've been leading a church now for 4 years. And so it takes having a community of other spiritual leaders that we can turn on and lean on and get support from. And I'm delighted to have 3 new friends. And I'm so grateful to you, Wally. You're an amazing friend. And
Yes.
and just and to have a new set of teachings that I can turn to and learn from. Not just to learn the truth principles, and understanding principles, but to see a master who could, claim a room and walk in like she owned it. That's John said early on, walk in like she owned it. And and I can learn from that too. So I'm delighted. Thank you, Wally, for including me.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for being here.
So I'm going to popcorn on Todd by saying why she named the church what she named the church. Understanding principles for better living, because you cannot do anything you cannot understand. And all of us know how to do things now that we could not understand. Day one, I just wanted to get her like this and be like, tell me the blocks, lady, tell me the blocks. But you got to learn what they are. And then you got to break them apart. So.
Absolutely. And I am forever grateful to her for, not just what I teach, but like I don't teach anything that I don't use, and I started using it a long time ago, and I had a lot of old habits to break through. So it took me a lot of years and a whole bunch of steps hiking up trails with Sherry and our friend Jody, really talking about this stuff, the whole time. And so exercising it through your whole body. And so, what I would really close out with for anyone who's watching this is, if you tuned in just for the conversation, awesome. Please go back and watch the video. If you watch the video, I encourage you to watch it again. I promise you'll pick up something you didn't hear the first time, or the third time, or the 10th time. So, use it as your own tool for success. And I say happy birthday, Reverend D.
Thank you.
And thank you all for being here. And I'm gonna end the stream.